What if I told you that most of Nigeria's leaders never wanted the job they were elected to? That the presidency has often been inherited, drafted, or negotiated, not earned through preparation. That what the country calls leadership has frequently been accidental. Abubakar Tafawa Balewa did not actively seek the premiership position in 1957. He was the deputy leader of the Northern People's Congress. Sir Ahmadu Bello, the party president, preferred to remain premier of the Northern region. When the NPC won plurality, the party leadership delegated the federal leadership role to Abubakar Tafawa Balewa. He accepted and led Nigeria to independence in 1960, earning the nickname Golden Voice of Africa for his eloquence and diplomacy. Yet structurally, he remained subordinate to Ahmadu Bello within the party's hierarchy. Federal authority was constrained by regional dominance. Civilian control over the military was weak. The fragility of this arrangement contributed directly to the collapse of the First Republic political period in 1966. Balewa was a capable statesman when he assumed office within a system that had already handicapped central executive authority. Alhaji Shehu Shagari's original political ambition in 1979 was to become a senator. He had served in the Constituent Assembly that drafted the Second Republic Constitution and had ministerial experience in the First Republic. Northern leaders within the NPN persuaded him to run for the presidency to maintain party unity and check rival aspirants. He won, defeating prominent figures such as Obafemi Awolowo and Nnamdi Azikiwe. But his presidency inherited structural vulnerabilities: an oil-dependent economy, weak fiscal oversight, and nascent institutional enforcement. The Second Republic collapsed under these stresses, demonstrating that even a capable individual cannot compensate for institutional frailty. Olusegun Obasanjo had just been released from prison in 1998 after years of political incarceration under General Sani Abacha. His initial focus was retirement and private life at his farm in Ota, Ogun State. The outgoing military leadership under Abdulsalami Abubakar and northern military elites persuaded him to contest as a depersonalized, stabilizing figure acceptable to all regions. He asked, "How many presidents do you want to make out of me?" reflecting hesitation after having already ruled as military head of state in 1976. Obasanjo's candidacy was not born from popular mandate, but elite positioning. While he achieved economic reforms and debt relief, the presidency remained structured around compromise and patronage, revealing the persistent difficulty of converting military-era command into democratic executive governance. Umaru Musa Yar'Adua had served 2 terms as governor of Katsina State and reportedly intended to retire from politics. His nomination as PDP presidential candidate in 2007 was orchestrated by Obasanjo, who valued his integrity and perceived him as non-threatening to ongoing elite arrangement. At the time, Yar'Adua was relatively obscure nationally and was viewed by some as a puppet in court. He assumed the presidency under a flawed electoral process. Health challenges and lack of succession planning created a vacuum during his tenure, forcing the National Assembly to invoke the doctrine of necessity. Despite his commitment to rule of law and initiating reforms, structural fragility defined his entry and constrained the office authority. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan began as an academic and environmental administrator. He was drafted into Bayelsa state politics and became governor when his boss, DSP Alamiseya, was arrested. In 2007, he was selected as vice president to Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, reportedly with reluctance, describing his ascent as destiny rather than ambition. In 2010, Yar'Adua died, elevating Jonathan to the presidency. He lacked national political base and had compressed composure to federal governance. He won the 2011 election in his own right and famously conceded in 2015. Jonathan's ascent illustrates how constitutional succession can produce presidents who are institutionally untested at entry, Muhammadu Buhari lost 3 consecutive elections in 2003, 2007, and 2011. After his 2011 defeat, he publicly declared he will retire from politics, citing electoral manipulation. By late 2011, he rescinded this decision, persuaded by political allies, including Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He returned to contest under the APC and won in 2015. This trajectory shows political ambition oscillating between public declaration and private persuasion. Prepared leadership demands consistent strategic vision, not reactive returns orchestrated by coalition negotiation. Bola Ahmed Tinubu rose through long-term regional political mastery and intra-party coalition building. Emi Lokan symbolized entitlement rather than doctrinal manifesto. Upon assuming office in 2023, structural reforms such as subsidy removal lacked calibrated social cushioning. Coalition engineering delivered office, not necessarily pretested national executive mastery. Therefore, from 1966 to 1979 and 1983 to 1999, Nigeria was ruled by military regimes. Commanders like Agui Ironsi, Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, Sani Abacha controlled power through force, not democratic legitimacy. Operational experience mattered, but peacetime governance of a complex federal state such as ours was rarely tested. Civilian leaders who returned afterwards inherited fragmented institutions, unfinished reforms, and unresolved regional tensions. Office could be seized without preparation, whether by force or by design. Across this leadership history, Balewa was delegated upward by party hierarchy. Shagari was drafted to maintain party equilibrium. Obasanjo was persuaded post-incarceration as a stabilizing elite figure. Yar'Adua was selected by his predecessor for his integrity rather than tested national competence. Jonathan inherited office by constitutional accident. Buhari oscillated between retirement and persuasion before winning. Tinubu rose through coalition negotiation rather than policy blueprint. Prepared leadership requires intellectual depth, institutional familiarity, strategic doctrine, and legitimacy before office. Elections confer legality, they do not confer readiness. Nigeria has repeatedly treated the presidency as a prize, not the culmination of tested executive preparation. The big question is, do we select rulers or do we cultivate leaders? Until the system changes, governance will remain reactive, fragile, and defined by circumstances, not vision.